But at least you got it. You got
against minorities is a great insult to the men and women who serve in law enforcement. And I want...
Huh? Huh? Yeah. Melon.
Oh no, backward.
The coalition, the color, my brother, rock your crown. I'm here to show you the power inside the color brown. Now's the time to open up your mind to what they tried to hide from the real royalty. Open up your chakra from your brain to your feet and really realize what's inside and believe. Got God on my side and I ride with the queen. As we travel on this journey, I'ma show you what I mean when you open up your eyes. When you know what your worth is, never no surprise. Spirit of the sun, navigating stars. Times are getting better when you feel them getting hard like.
What's up, and welcome back for another episode of the Coalition of Color. If you're new to our channel, we're all about uniting, educating, developing, and advancing the Black millennium. If that sounds like something you'd be interested, stick around. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell so that you know when we upload new videos.
So last night was the vice presidential debate and the attack of the flies, apparently. So let's talk about it.
Yes. Can we talk about the fly first?
Let's go.
Okay. I don't know if you paid attention, but I went back and looked at the absolute time that, like, what was he talking about when the fly landed on his head? Can we play that clip real quick?
Absolutely.
In the case of Breonna Taylor, was justice done?
Well, our heart breaks for the loss of any innocent American life, and the family of Breonna Taylor has our sympathies. This presumption that you hear consistently, that America is systemically racist, and that, as Joe Biden said, that he believes that law enforcement has an implicit bias against minorities, is a great insult to the men and women who serve in law enforcement.
Okay, so I think that fly had like perfect timing. It's almost like God and that fly had perfect alignment, and God said, whoop, right there, and the fly said, bullshit.
Right.
It was so crazy.
Yep. I mean, it was just the best interpretation of this current administration.
Absolutely.
To me. Now, one thing that I do want to say, we don't judge anybody for being a Republican or independent, for being a conservative or a liberal. All we're doing is we're giving our opinions on how we think that the community can advance, right? So if you disagree, please be more than willing to drop a comment in the comment section below just to let us know. And we encourage the healthy debate. We think that's one of the ways that we are going to unite our community is to have these tough conversations and see these different thought processes.
I agree. One thing I will say, there was a lot of mistruths being told, right? Even on Kamala's side, on the Pence side, it was almost like full-fledged lies, you know what I mean? Which is why it was so apt that this fly was like right on his head as he got into the thick of the lies that he was telling. So it was interesting to me.
Yeah, before we get into all of the facts and this, that, and the other, something else that I observed was the fact that neither of the leaders in this current administration know how to follow the rules, and I know to some Americans that's the whole gimmick, the whole shtick.
Yeah, the shtick.
Yeah, go check that episode out. But anyway, no, because he was cutting her off sometimes. There was a lot of times that she had to say something like, I'm still talking, Vice President.
He's going to repeal the Trump tax cuts.
Mr. Vice President, I'm speaking.
Well, wait.
I'm speaking.
And then, the moderator, I think if Chris Wallace would have done this, it would have been just a little bit better because the moderator was just allowing Pence to keep talking,
Mr. Vice President. Mr. Vice President.
And if you
Excuse
notice,
me, Mr. Vice
exactly.
President.
Thank you.
They also
Thank you,
said
Vice
to us if we
President
did everything right, Susan.
Vice President
Now, one
Pence.
life lost is too
Thank you.
many, Susan. Our doctors, our nurses, our first
Thank you, Vice
responders.
President Pence.
But we
Thank
still
you, Vice
learn
President
from it.
Pence.
And I think
Vice
the
President
American
Pence, your time
people,
is
I'm going
up.
to say again, can be
Vice
proud
President Pence, I'm
of
sorry, your
what
time
we
is
have
up.
done. Please
Thank you, Vice
stop
President
undermining
Pence.
confidence in a vaccine. Alarmists
President Pence,
use
I'm sorry, your time
hurricanes
is up.
and wildfires to try and
Thank
sell
you,
their
Vice
bill of
President
goods
Pence.
of a Trump and I are going to always put
Thank you,
American
Vice
jobs in
President.
American.
And Kamala Harris, you know, she would request for time. You know, I like to address this over here, and the moderator would say 15 seconds, 30 seconds, and she would give her 5 seconds or 10 seconds. But you know, that's neither here nor there.
But Kamala did check her sometimes and say, no, I would like equal time. You know what I mean? And
'Cause he
rightfully so.
interrupted me.
Yeah, and then he spoke for like 30 seconds to a minute.
Right.
You gave him a whole extra minute. It was like she was scared or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
I was not a fan of the moderator, and maybe they just didn't expect or anticipate, like any of us did, Pence to be so rude. You know what I mean? In a kind way, obviously, in a Pence way.
Right.
But he was still rude.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Your time is
Well,
up.
that's their
and you
tactics,
talk.
you know. I'm quite sure that he was around during Trump's whole campaign training, debate training. It's just control the narrative. You know, there were several times that they would ask him a specific question and he would go off and talk about something completely different to escape the entire question.
President Trump has several times refused to commit himself to a peaceful transfer of power after the election. If Vice President Biden is declared the winner and President Trump refuses to accept a peaceful transfer of power, what would be your role and responsibility as Vice President? What would you personally do?
Well, Susan, first and foremost, I think we're going to win this election because while Joe Biden and Kamala Harris rattle off a long litany of the establishment in Washington, D.C., an establishment that Joe Biden's been a part of for 47 years, President Donald Trump has launched a movement of everyday Americans from every walk of life. And I have every confidence that those same Americans that delivered that historic victory in 2016.
So, you know, but we're used to this, and it does happen on both sides. But I just think that this current administration is doing it a little bit too much, and it's a little bit too overt, and they're completely taking the respect of it and throwing it out.
Respect the process of it. You know, I get the concept of debate. Don't answer the question. Answer the question that you want to answer. You know what I mean? If it's not a good question, I get that. They ask an outright blatant question, and you outright say,
I'm not going to answer.
I'm not going to answer that right now. I'm going to address Kamala's answer from the previous question.
If Roe v. Wade is overturned, what would you want Indiana to do? Would you want your home state to ban all abortions?
Well, thank you for the question, but I'll use a little bit of my time to respond to that very important issue before.
What?
Where did they do that?
These are questions that the people want to know.
Right.
That was not your question. And the moderator said very clearly in the beginning, I will ask her some questions. I did like that. She set the rules out in the beginning. I will ask you some questions and I will ask you some questions. Sometimes I will ask you both the same question, but oftentimes I won't. That does not allow you the chance to debate that.
Right.
And I get it's a debate, but there's rules to the debate.
What I feel like Biden and Harris represent is respect for the office. You see what I'm saying? And they're showing that. So, you know, big up to that
Agreed.
campaign, to that party.
Agreed. I feel like if we were to get a Biden-Harris administration in the White House, I feel like it would just be more of what we've had. You know what I mean? Instead of all of this craziness. Not that I want more of what we had. I want progression. But if we got a choice between more of what we had and complete chaos, I think I'll take a little bit more of what we had. You know? So.
I agree.
So,
nitty-gritty?
yes, let's get into the nitty-gritty of the debate. I think the tone of the debate to me was kind of like addressing this pandemic. It was kind of hard not to address the pandemic almost every way around the questions that were being asked, right? It always came back to this. And Pence kept making the statement in defense of Trump like, oh, he put the ban in the beginning, we handled it well, and downplaying the seriousness of the pandemic. The tone of Mike Pence, just his lack of affection for people that had died from this coronavirus and just downplaying it, it's really, I don't know, to me that was kind of like the tone of last night, you know?
Yeah, and you talk about downplaying it, and I think one of the most memorable responses to the pandemic was when he talked about what could have been with Obama and the bird flu or Ebola.
Swine flu.
Whichever.
H1N1.
It was 2009. The swine flu arrived in the United States. Thankfully, it ended up not being as lethal as the coronavirus. But before the end of the year, 60 million Americans contracted the swine flu. If the swine flu had been as lethal as the coronavirus, we would have lost 2 million American lives.
And the what could have been, he said like something like, oh, 2 million people could have died, but they didn't. You know, not 200,000 died. And he's sitting there making this apple and orange comparisons when we're dealing with this right now.
Right now.
You know, Halloween is coming up. The kids can't go out and trick or treat. Thanksgiving is coming up. Rest in peace, but how many big mamas, you know, how many are the ones who manage those whole Thanksgiving feasts that happen aren't going to be here because of this mismanagement of this. Christmas is coming up, you know. How many people are going to be in holiday cheer spirits with their family members and stuff gone, knowing that it could have been prevented?
And we all heard the recordings by now with Trump basically saying,
Oh,
this is worse.
Oh,
this is worse than the flu. And, of course, like you said, he wanted to downplay it.
It's also more deadly than your strenuous flus. I wanted to always play it down. I still like playing it down.
There's a way of being honest with the American people and still not creating a panic. For example, when we had H1N1 flying school, right?
They told us about it.
They told us about it. We knew how bad it was. Yes, we knew how bad it was. Okay, so people weren't eating certain things and they were really crazy about those certain things. Okay, it didn't create a panic.
You want to say that Joe Biden wants to shut down the government or the economy to fix this or whatever. Well, had things been preempted, there would have never been a need for a shutdown in the first place.
In the first place, correct.
So
all of this that's happening right now, it's like he doesn't understand that he is currently president right now, and vice president, Pence too. You know, you guys are in office right now, and we're dealing with this stuff.
Well, that brings me to my next point. So all of the blame that he put on Trump's response to the pandemic, right? Pence, you were the head of the pandemic response team, not Trump. He led that team. So really the onus falls on him to, one, investigate and figure out what's true and what's not. Two, to be real or to advise the president. And you just keep throwing the blame on somebody else. I don't think this would have been going on if Obama would have been in office. I don't think this would have been going on if Hillary was in office.
Trump dismantled. He was so hell-bent on revenge that he didn't do logical things when he got into office. He was so concerned with being spiteful and being nasty to Obama and on get back that he did things to kick himself in the butt, basically. You know,
he disbanded the pandemic response team.
You cut off your nose to spite your face.
Responded and said that they should have told the truth and that they really don't care about the people because they didn't. And Pence response.
Many of the people who were at that event, Susan, actually were tested for coronavirus, and it was an outdoor event. President Trump and I trust the American people to make choices in the best interest of their health.
At that point in time, you're not doing the right thing. At that point in time, you're not setting an example.
No.
Just because somebody believes that it's the right thing for them, which will now jeopardize hundreds of other people, their families and everything.
Explain how the masks work.
You're just going to let that happen.
Explain, because I think people are missing how these masks work, right? If you let someone else decide whether or not they're going to wear a mask, the mask is not for their own protection. It's for if I'm wearing this mask right now and he doesn't have his mask on, I am still at risk. He's safe from my stuff, but I'm not safe from his. Do you get that? Furthermore, that Rose Garden event, they keep labeling it the Rose Garden event because I guess the main event took place in the Rose Garden, but there was an event that happened prior to the Rose Garden, right? A reception that happened in several different locations within the White House, several of the White House reception rooms. They were in there gathering, hugging, kissing, right? And then after the Rose Garden event, they went back inside to do the same type of thing, to talk. The president was there. Who knows whether or not he was positive at the time, but come on.
And it could have all been avoided. And it's like, at the end of the day, you're still not a doctor. You're not a scientist who have been telling us how to deal with it. Wash your hands, social distance, and wear a mask. And they refuse to do those things. So it's funny to see him getting off the helicopter and walking up to the White House and taking his mask off.
And I heard that he never takes those stairs. Like that's not the entrance that you typically go into. It was almost like he was trying to prove.
Oh, it was another photo op. For instance, the Supreme Court justice.
Yes, sidestepping. They're
whether
not
you're gonna
trying
pack
to
it
answer
or
if
not.
they're going to pack the court.
Right.
People would really like to know if Judge Amy Coney Barrett is confirmed to the Supreme Court of the United States, if somehow you win this election, going to pack the Supreme Court to get your way.
I'm so glad we went through a little history lesson. Let's do that a little more. In 1864.
Well, I'd like you to answer the question.
No, Mr.
Yes,
Vice President, I'm
please,
speaking.
very
I'm
fast.
speaking. In 1864.
And they also said neither one of them responded to the safeguards or procedures for presidential disability. Both presidential candidates are in their 70s, right? Joe's 77, Trump is 74. In the event that something happens, neither one of them answered the question.
I haven't been around, for a whole bunch of presidencies, and I have been paying attention for even less. But again, I think that was political strategy, right?
Of
Because right
course.
now, you're talking in whoever wins this election will be the oldest president.
Of course.
So, with that being said, right, now what you're doing is you're taking focus off of the president, and now people would now have to vote and say, oh, well, who do I think would be the president? Because
Of
it's
course.
likely that this president
Of course.
is going to die.
Of course.
When the vaccine is available, would each of them take it?
That was a good question.
And Kamala said, yeah, if it
Only if it was pushed by scientists.
yeah, by science. She said, if Trump comes out here with the "this is what cured me," she was like, no.
If the public health professionals, if Dr. Fauci, if the doctors tell us that we should take it, I'll be the first in line to take it. Absolutely. But if Donald Trump tells us that we should take it, I'm not taking it.
I want the science to go ahead and run its course, and I'm not a big vaccinator myself.
I'm not. I will not be taking it. I don't care who puts it out. Sorry.
What did they say? I saw something that was very interesting. It said, how long before you're required to show proof of vaccination to go grocery shopping?
Right.
You know
Or
what I'm
to
saying?
enroll your kids in school.
Like that's really
Yeah.
where it's really coming from. Because
Yeah.
like for a lot of those vaccines,
Yeah.
you have to
Smallpox.
you have to give your child in order to enroll them in school.
Yep. Well, Pence also pointed out the fracking thing. Like
Right.
they're always trying to attack without really knowing the facts, or just trying to be misleading, right? So he said, "Oh, you're planning on ending fracking, the senator," and Kamala is. She's all for ending that fracking, and rightfully so. It's destroying the environment, and we all know global warming is real. But Biden has to play to the middle, so he can't be so against fracking because big oil and all of this is huge. Right? It's a big mover for the American economy, so he's got to play both sides. Okay, so I think it's safe to say that debate was very different, not too much different, but very different as far as volume, and understandability, and processing what each side was saying. In that way, it was very different from the presidential debate. It was a little dry, just because Pence is very dry, and Kamala didn't bring her Kamala juice because that would have been too much on the vice presidential stage. I get it. I respect it. At the end of the day, I think what's most important is figuring out which side is going to benefit the Black community, right? Where are we going to send our votes?
I completely agree with that. Again, the vote matters, the census matters. We need to pick a side and unite our vote to advance our community. The economy isn't really putting a dent on my finances. I'm not in jeopardy of being evicted. The vehicles aren't in repo status, stuff like that. But there are a lot of people who are,
Right.
and we can't ignore the fact that it's disproportionate. A lot of these things, pandemic included, are disproportionately affecting the Black community. Even like our goal is to fight for the Black community. Like we're all right, but So don't just think about yourself or your current situation, or like I said in the last episode, your tax break or whatever the case may be. Think about our community and what everybody else is going through.
Right.
So with that being said, let us know in the comment section below what you thought about the debates, what you think about what we think about the debates. We'll be back at you next week with the second presidential debate, if that happens. So apparently right now, because President Trump has coronavirus, they're supposed to be entertaining the idea of doing the debate virtually. However, your president says if it's going to be virtual, he is not participating.
He said he ain't wasting his time.
So if that happens, we'll be back at you with the second presidential debate. If it doesn't, we'll figure out something to, some content to produce for you. As always, we really appreciate your viewership. Please support us by liking, commenting, subscribing, and sharing. Please click the notification bell so you always know when we drop an episode, and we're leaning towards going live sometimes. Okay, maybe. But you'll know about it if you click the notification bell. And last but not least, if you're into monetary donations, please donate to Cash App, $, the Coalition of Color. And Malcolm, take us out.
Who taught you to hate the texture of your hair? Who taught you to hate the color of your skin? Who taught you to hate the shape of your nose and the shape of your lips? Who taught you to hate yourself from the top of your head to the soles of your feet? Who taught you to hate your own kind? Who taught you to hate the race that you belong to?
What's up, and welcome back to the Coalition of Color. If you're new to our channel, we're all about uniting, educating, developing, and advancing the Black community.
Me too. What I feel like, Biden, what I